Hey team, welcome back to another great episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I am joined by my new friend, Wendell. He is with Top Ag, the founder of Top Ag, I think, right? Is that how we say
That's
it?
that's correct.
That's right. And we're gonna be talking a little bit of seed. We're gonna be talking intentional leadership. We're gonna be talking small business ownership, all those things that you guys like to hear about. But Wendell, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you, Mark. It's good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, glad to have you on. Wendell, opening question that everybody gets. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
So, Mark, it seems like I more have the founder mentality, and so started a business, had to go through all of those steps to make that happen, and so it seems like it's become something I have had to learn what to stop doing because I'm used to doing it, and some of those things that have become recently that I've recently decided I needed to stop is like one is going so fast. When it's all on you, you do everything, you go as fast as you can and you get it done. And learning to just stop doing that and let the team and empower the team and have the beauty of that, of being able to rest in that. And so just being intentional about the things I need to stop because as probably most founders of companies are, we just want to go.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to want to just push on the gas and push on the accelerator, and you can see where it needs to go. But sometimes we got to bring everybody else along with us, right?
yes, absolutely. And just to think about it is one thing to understand here today is
Mhm.
you brought on a guest who is still a work in progress. So anything I say today that is most likely because I'm in the middle of working on it on myself. So
Yeah. I tell you what, man, 150 some episodes that I've recorded on this show, and I have yet to find somebody that wasn't a work in progress.
yeah, sure.
Wasn't already included. That's part of the deal, man. I love it. Well, Wendell, tell us a little bit about Top Ag. You guys are a Bex dealer, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, the business, a little bit. Get us to know you.
Sure. We started cold in 2016, fall of that. And Bex was not in our area. Top Ag had not been yet a business, and so it was a truly a cold start. All driveways, they had not heard of anything. So
Wow.
we started up from the ground up from that position on, and it has been a good ride. There's been some challenges along the way, and so we're at today. We have several. We're a pretty small team, but we have 3 full-time employees,
Nice.
and also have someone that works in the office in addition to that.
Cool. I love it. I love it. So there was no brand recognition. Nobody knew who you were, and
Correct.
you just somehow made it go.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. What would you say? I want to dive into that because I think there's we have a lot of sales managers that we work with in some of our leadership programs and our sales manager training, and then also just a lot of salespeople that we work with from across ag. If you're new in that area, wherever that area is, but let's just say you're trying to go out there and build your book of business, and nobody really knows who you are.
Sure.
First of all, like what's your strategy? What's going through your mind as you're thinking about, okay, I decided to go do this thing. Now I have to go make it happen. What what's going through your mind in those early days?
Really good question. It seems like I read a book called The Challenger Sale,
Yeah.
and I really like that. I feel like we need to be informative. We need to be people that know what the competition is at the same time.
Mhm.
It's nice when you can walk into a room and help them guide them. And sometimes, I mean, there's been times where we just had a discussion because they were going to plant the competition anyway. So I helped them place it on the farm. Becoming that trusted advisor at their table. Almost all small farms in America cannot afford a CEO. My business can't. But to be someone kind of like that, where you can come in and sit down at the table, it's more than just placing seed or being an order taker. I
Mhm.
think you want to take a little bit of that control of that table, if you will,
Yeah.
and help guide them to answers and solutions.
Yeah. So what is the process like to become the trusted advisor? I hear a lot of people talk about it. Like we want to.
Sure.
I hear a lot of VPs of agronomy say, "Oh, our goal is for our people to be the trusted advisor." and I see very, very few of the salespeople actually pulling that off. So, what's been what's been your process to actually make it happen?
Sure. Really, for myself personally, it's been a podcast. That's been very unique and just getting the word out there quickly. It and it doesn't have to be a podcast, but something like that where you're putting out information to people that they realize that you're getting it. I think my farm has helped with that as well because what I'm talking about is what we're also doing or experimenting or experiencing.
Got it.
And so having that real feel of the pain or the gain is also helpful. So that's just a practical side of it. And the other is just sitting down at the table and learn. We talked about stopping doing things. I have to stop talking and listen.
Mm,
Have that empathetic listening ear to them has been very helpful to me. I've uncovered more things that way and been more helpful to them by
yeah,
just not throwing up and or showing up and throwing up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. It's hard to do, right, from a sales perspective.
Yes,
It is what I tell people when we do sales training all the time. It's like, man, I know you're excited about your thing. Like, I know you got the best thing. Like, or
yes,
at least you think you got the best thing, right?
that's right.
But at the end of the day, like, in this, it's interesting to watch people's faces drop when I say this. But I'm like, listen, nobody cares about your thing,
Yes,
right? Nobody cares about your thing as much as you care about your thing, right?
yes.
And it's what the old saying is like, nobody, they don't. Oh gosh, I'm misfiring on the quote live as we record this window, but it's like they'll never know how they don't care how much you know, but they care about how much you care.
That's right. And
So
they won't remember
they don't remember
anything except that.
what you said, but they remember how much you care.
Yeah.
There we go. I think we finally got it right.
We're on the same page. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's super good. Um, Last question on this little tangent here, but what made you decide to do this? I mean, there's a lot of other types of businesses you could start or buy.
Sure.
There's lots of businesses for sale, Wendell, in ag and out of ag. But what made you decide to go do this from a cold start?
So when I moved from Arizona to here, to background just a little bit, I managed a landscape company in Arizona for a period of time. Got to really close to a lot of our clients there and people. And when I moved here and started farming, there was this thought in the back of my mind that there's one thing missing, and that is the people helping people. And so I was looking for that. And then when this opportunity came along, started exploring it, and one thing led to another, and it seemed like a really good fit. And today, I will say, is I'm doing exactly what I want to do, and that is we're helping people be more successful.
Love it. So good, man. So good. All right, so you're building a small team right now. You guys you're adding
Yep.
people to the team. Um, how are you going about intentionally curating your culture? Right? I think a lot of people think, oh, it's just a few people, like I don't need to. But it sounds to me like, I mean, and given the books that you're reading, we talked about off the air, culture is something that matters to you. So what are you doing to be intentional about making that grow?
Sure. It seems like that, and I really love this topic of culture. Like you've mentioned before in some of your past podcasts, is that it is a buzzword in the industry. I
Yeah.
think one of the things we get a little confused with is that it's not actionable. We don't do culture, even though we do spend a lot of time and dollars trying to do those activities. And it seems like in here is an environment that you want to create is what your culture will be a result of, more than saying we're going to go do this.
Mm,
And one of the things that I don't know how to explain it other than calling it that feeling of belonging. My goal for all of our employees is that they feel like when they are here that they belong.
mm-hmm.
And it can be something different for some employees over another one. I have the saying that I don't want to treat our people equally, but rather treat them well and of what they need, right? So there's different employees might have a different need. And so we don't necessarily just want to always we have policies, we have certain, retirement and all that good stuff, but it comes down to us asking them what they really want and then trying to be adaptable to that. Sometimes it's a little harder, easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But that belonging, I think I'm going to go back to that. Is it just seems like at its core is I want them to feel like they belong. That even if they go somewhere else, let's say they do, they say, "Hey, I'm going to go somewhere else and work," but that they would have that feeling in their mind that if someday they'd come back and visit, it'd feel like they're coming back home.
Yeah. Yeah. You bet. Good stuff, man. It's when you can create a space. Well, I guess one of the things that we say all the time in our Thriving Leader program is that today's leaders have a moral obligation to create work environments within which people can thrive.
Yes,
Right? And belonging is a big part of that.
yes. And to your point there, this morning I asked one of our team leaders what his opinion was on our culture here, and I said, I don't want to get on this podcast and say things that aren't true. But he is one of his comments he talked about in that is one is he said we have a culture of excellence, which wasn't necessarily a word I was going to come up with myself, but that was his take, and it seems like I agree with that. With what you're trying to say, that we need to come back to what they need in their environment and what they're seeing, and try to have that listening ear to them.
You bet. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so continuing on the topic of culture, let's just take excellence as an example. It's one of our core values as well.
Sure.
And so, and sometimes I'm sure team members get frustrated because we're like, do it again,
Yes.
because that's what's required, right?
That's right.
That goes for us too. Like sometimes I have to do it again because it's just
Yes.
like it's not good, right? Or it's not excellent.
That's right.
It's good but not excellent. But it's like when I didn't always have that as a core value in my life,
Yes.
and my life reflected it, right? And that's probably
That's right.
cost me millions of dollars and caused me hardship when it didn't need to because it wasn't. So now we just strive for it. And
Yeah.
but it's one thing to say, oh yeah, excellence is our core value. Excellence is in our culture. We have a culture of excellence. It's another thing, right, to actually make that happen. So let's just say somebody wanted to implement excellence into their culture. What two things would you advise them they have to do for that to show up?
I was just pondering that while you were talking. I was like, what's he going to ask? Because, like I said this morning, I asked that question to him, and I was not expecting that answer. It wasn't like we just had this nessus. I do want excellence, yes, but it wasn't like I sat at our board meetings and pounded this in. Yes. And so, what two things? I don't know. I was trying to think about that from a little, maybe the thought that was I was backing up a little bit is that I believe excellence is a product of kind of like what we're talking about. It's a product of other things. And maybe it's like, a fascination with detail. I'm not a detail oriented person, but I love them. And I have some people in place that are doing tremendous with that.
Yes.
Um, and so if you're going to set out into it, you do have to remember details. And unfortunately for me, in my first few years of starting out, I'm embarrassed to even tell you what all I did because they were kind of laughable when you're small.
I was doing it just in a different business right alongside you, screwing it up.
Yep.
I promise. Yeah, go ahead.
And I told someone recently, I said, I have a mentor, and I told him recently, and I said, it was funny then, but I said, when your business starts to take its, take its first baby steps and starts to act like a little more like a child, maybe an adult eventually, these things aren't so funny anymore. And that's when I think that is very important is like the looks of your place. It goes down to those little things, I believe, around here. And I like to ask my employees at the beginning of the year and put that goal out in front of them and say, is there something here that's kind of that pivot pin on which excellence comes out of? Maybe it's turning off the lights when you leave at night. Just remembering to do these things gives you another, I don't know what it is. It seems like it motivates a person into more areas than one. And I love finding those little things.
Yeah. Yep. But so I'm going to distill that down, but you nailed it, right? Because it really, I mean, excellence cannot happen without detail,
Yes.
right? Without some level of detail. Now, I've said this on the show a number of times, but we use this. One of the assessment tools that we use is called Strength Scope. We're a distributor for it, and it's a great tool. It helps you understand like where do you derive your energy from, like when you're working, right? Where do you get the
Yes.
energy from? And for me, it's things like it's relationship building, it's
Yes.
developing others, it's teaching, it's training. God put an anointing on me for being a teacher, and I'm great at it. And
Yes.
that's one, like, and I don't have to feel bad saying I'm great at it. Like, that's how He made me, and I love to teach, and that's why
Exactly.
one of the reasons why I make a podcast. But my point with all of those things, like those are all great things. Detail orientation is not. Like I get completely drained by
Yes.
but I still, I'm still a co-founder of the Momentum Company. What does that mean? Well, it means that there's some detail to look at,
That's right.
right? And so sometimes I'm proofreading emails before they go out the door, even though I don't like to do it and I don't want to, and I just want people to be able to write the emails without me looking at it yet. But we haven't got there yet where they can do it to a level of excellence without it being proofed.
That's right.
And therefore we do.
That's right.
Until we get the business to that next level where maybe we do have somebody, right, who can
Yes.
have the right person who gets energized by those things. My point in saying that is like it's if we're going to have excellence as an example, I'm just using excellence as an example of a core value or a principle or a cultural pillar. You could pick whatever. You could pick stewardship.
Yes.
You could pick being charitable, right, as an important part, or being um, integrity is a common one that you hear in people's culture.
Yes.
Okay, what does integrity really mean,
That's
right?
right.
And how do you back that up? How do you implement that? How do you make that real, right? And how do you be intentional about it? So excellence and I are a little bit like oil and water because the detail piece of that is so important,
Yes.
right? But kind of like you, like we have people that do help us solve for certain levels of detail,
That's right.
that enjoy the detail. Or
Yes.
sometimes I'm willing to pay to outsource when detail is needed on certain things,
Yep.
right? And so we can find ways to still get excellence, but you have to be willing to go that extra mile once in a while to make sure it happens.
100%. I think you and I probably have a lot of similarities there in what we face on a daily basis. And one of those examples is if I get distracted a lot. In fact, I want those distractions to happen so I don't have to focus on my email and I don't have to get this done. And so I finally told the team the other day, I said, look, no phone calls between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. I said, it's not because I don't want you calling me. That's the problem. I do want you to distract me so I don't have to do my work, but I got to get this done.
These other things that you do need from me have got to get done at some point, right?
That's right. Exactly. So,
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like it's like the background that you see behind me. Like there are some things behind me that are meaningful, right? That deer antler over there, that
yes.
goal, like those are all tied to certain things, from my dad, and it looks good for the most part. I mean, there's a couple things out of
Yep.
place. I now see I could go edit that and go straighten up that one book or whatever. But it looks good. But like, listen, that's my wife. Like I did not do that. If it was still me, if it was just me, it would still be a green wall. There wouldn't even
Yes.
be a bookshelf.
That's right.
We
That's
have to
right.
surround ourselves with the right kind of people that really care about some of those things as well. So, but knowing this about myself, and we're and then obviously like we've got kids at all different ages from 9 up to 23. So my 9-year-old, he's benefiting from all the stuff that we got wrong with the first 5.
That's right.
So when he gets home from school today, he owes me $1. Why does he owe me $1? Because
Yes.
he leaves the lights on all the time. And so
Yep.
we're trying to teach it. So he's got a little, starting last week, has a little spreadsheet attached to his door that I made uh, with ChatGPT. I'll be real honest. I just told ChatGPT what I needed because I don't have time to sit down and make
Right.
for this. But I did. And I printed it out and put it on his door. And so every time he leaves the bedroom light on, it's 50 cents. Every time he leaves the bathroom light on, which is right next to his bedroom, it's 50 cents. And so, when he left for school, it was both of them are on. So he owes me $1, right? And we're checking, putting it on here, and we're adding up a daily total. Now,
Yes.
do I need his money? No, I don't need his. I probably gave him the
That's right.
damn money. but we need him to learn. Like it still sucks for him because he doesn't want to lose the $1. And
That's right.
it's not about the money, right? It's
Yep.
even about the light. It's about
Yep.
teaching these things that lead to more excellence over time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and it's tough, man. I mean, like being able to implement these cultural things. Danny Meyer once said, I've said this on the show a bunch that people have heard, but maybe you're listening to it for the first time, or maybe you're hearing it for the first time. Danny Meyer started Shake Shack and a bunch of other restaurants. Actually, he's
Yes.
mentioned in that book, Unreasonable
Unreasonable.
Hospitality, right behind you. So but I saw him speak at a Tony Robbins conference,
Okay.
and he said that culture is like taking care of a newborn baby. You have to feed it 12 times a day, and when it craps its diaper, you darn well better change it.
Yes. That's right.
Right, and that's what it is. And I think a lot of people think they can put this slogan on the wall, or they can have a meeting once a year to talk about it, right, or review it when they're during their onboarding, and then that's it. But that's culture. Culture is not something you say. Culture is what happens in your work environment when your team gets squeezed.
That's right.
That's when you notice it.
Yep, that makes 100% sense. I mean, if your children are growing up, they need you as a father. And I was thinking that's the thing you want with your team. You want them, like I'm a person of faith, and it says it in the Bible that there are like 10,000 instructors, but not very many fathers. And so, I mean, I think that's true in society as a whole, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And by the way, plenty of enemy attacks after our kids' minds to be those instructors and
Yes,
and possibly instruct them in the wrong things.
exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I think part of being intentional is being a good defender of your people too.
Yes, that's right. 100%. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit. You got a couple books back there behind you. I'm curious though, Wendell. What's the what book would you recommend for folks if they were going to go pick one up today and dive in on business or faith or mindset or leadership or whatever you pick your topic? But what do you what do you have for us to recommend?
Wow. I read a lot and listen to audiobooks when I do some traveling. And so it's hard. It was hard for me to just focus on one. But as a leader, if you're going to be a leader of a team and you have people sitting around your table, I recommend Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
Yep.
I think that's a really good one. We require all of our employees have to read it to be able to get company benefits.
Wow.
And so they always read it. They enjoy it. And it seems like it says something in there a lot more than I'm able to express in just, 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That is easily. I'm not going to say the most recommended book. It comes up a bunch on the show,
I believe it.
and I cannot recommend that one. That one enough. A good
The
read.
other,
Fun read.
the other one I'm going to say is Leadership and Self Deception. That's the other one behind me. It's by the Arbinger Institute.
Okay.
And
Yep. Got it. Yep.
yeah, that one there is also a really good one, and how to perceive other people and also yourself.
Cool. Love it. What's your favorite book in the Bible?
Oh wow. I actually like the Old Testament because I feel like there are so many parallels.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Love it.
And so I don't know which one's the favorite though. It just depends on the time I'm in, right?
I know. I bounce like I'm deep into Acts right now.
Okay. Yes.
Like I've just been going through. I've been doing like one or two chapters every morning for my morning study,
Yes.
and I'm just like I'm really like in a Paul season. Like I want to learn to be an evangelist. Like evangelize
Yep.
people and use the gifts that have been given to bring more people into the fold. And so
Absolutely.
like I'm reading the. I mean, this guy had a lot of bravery.
Yes. Absolutely.
You get stoned or imprisoned or almost killed before you quit, but you just never did.
Yes.
So it's a cool story. But from a I joke about this a little bit, but I'm also serious. If you go and look at the first several books, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, since you mentioned it, they're actually some of the best change management manuals
Sure.
available. Right. So you have Genesis. Like if you're trying to change something in your environment, Genesis that's the new idea. Right?
That's right.
That's where the new thing starts. That's where it all begins. And so, we have lots of Genesises throughout the course of our careers, right?
That's correct.
Even just bringing a new person on, and so there's the new idea. But then book 2 is Exodus, right? So we have the idea, but now we have to leave what we currently know and go to something new,
That's right.
right? And then after that you have Leviticus, right? And Leviticus is the law, right? So
Yep.
so now that we get to the new place, now we got rules,
Truth. It's truth.
right? Yeah, and then you get a couple books later. Right now we have Deuteronomy, which is the law again,
Yes.
right? And that's how important the law is. So when you think about implementing corporate culture,
Sure.
Just putting it from a biblical perspective, and which I believe is the most intentional book ever written. What what I find to be really important about this is like it's like this being able to, first of all, can you, let's say you go through a merger, or you go through an acquisition, or you bring on a bunch of new people or whatever. You're literally taking people from that point of, I think as Lencioni puts it, right, the forming,
Yes.
and then we have to go through the storming, and that's kind of like what happens in Exodus.
Yeah, right. That's right.
To get to the norming, which is where we start to implement policies and procedures and normalize how we work together, so that we can get to the performing, which means that we all have to play by those rules,
Sure.
right? And it's like we write all these business books and mindset books, but the book has been around for thousands of years on how to do all this.
That's a true point. I never thought of it that way, what you were talking about, but I think that's a very interesting and
That, by the way,
great.
that's not theology. That's just my observation of it.
Sure. No, absolutely.
I'm not
Yep.
claiming to be a theologian or say, hey, this is what he meant by that, but that's just my little interpretation of it.
But that's the way it's supposed to be. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, I mean, God obviously is the most intentional. We're sitting here the week of Easter as we make this, so it's top of mind.
True. That's true. Very true.
Is there ever a more intentional act
Yep.
from a leader,
Absolutely.
right? Pretty amazing. So, good. What has been the most challenging part of growing your business? What's been even just the toughest thing in your career? But what's been the most challenging component?
So at Top Ag was probably the most challenging was is those first I'm going to say I think it was 3 to 4, actually almost 5 years was really challenging. And it was challenging because we were raising awareness, and there was a time there where you hadn't been around long enough, but you were doing everything probably 5 times more than everyone else. It seemed like,
Yeah.
right? It's perception probably, but we were trying to have excellence. We were trying to do the right thing, trying to be an advisor, um, saying no to nothing really,
Mm-hmm.
saying yes to everything, and then you get to the end of the year and find that that trust wasn't there yet, and because it hadn't been around long. It wasn't because they had any complaints or they were upset or anything. It's just, well, we'll see. They're trying to see how long are you going to be here for us.
Right.
And so that was a challenge, and I almost gave up. I actually called my seat advisor there at Bex and said, "I think I'm just not going to be able to do this."
Yeah.
And then we went out to one of the those those sales kickoffs or whatever, and they had a speaker there by the name of John O'Leary. He's out of St. Louis. He was burnt over 90% of his body, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
spoke that
Read the book.
you know he has a book called On Fire, and he spoke that night, and he made this comment. He said, we can ask ourselves this question: what more can I do? And he says we ask it with two attitudes. One is sarcastic: I've done everything I can.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, what more can I do? Or he says we can ask it sincerely: what more can we do?
Yeah.
And I went home with that second attitude, saying I was going to go back and we were going to double down.
Yep.
And it was literally within that year or the next, where if you look at the plaques on my wall, that's where the sales started to really spike. Had I given up, I was that close,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
I would have never known it.
Wow. Reminds me of that 3 feet from gold story. Have you ever heard that?
Remind me, is it be worth saying it?
Yeah, there's a book about it. Probably a lot of people haven't heard it. So there's a true story, and I don't remember any of the names. I don't have this memorized, but I do know the sort of the parable of it anyway.
Yep.
There was a gold guy put together a bunch of investors to go out and mine gold where there was thought to be a bunch of gold, I believe in Colorado. Okay. And so he gets all this money together, gets everybody to pull, rounds up all these investors, family, friends, etc. Everybody gives him a bunch of money, goes out there, buys the best equipment, does all the
Mhm.
research, finds where they think this big gold vein should be, and gets after it, and just digs and digs and digs until he runs out of money and doesn't find gold. So tucks tail, goes home, says he's sorry, whatever. Left a lot of the stuff behind, and then it's just some old gold panning old timer comes through and is looking for gold, finds what this person had started. It's says, "Well, I'll just pick up where he left off," and he puts his chisel into the end of the cave or into the tunnel, whatever he was, whatever wherever they were mining, and he goes 3 more feet, and he finds the biggest vein of gold that had ever been discovered in North America.
Yep. Wow. Yep.
Just and I mean, the point is, you could be that close, right? But just don't quit.
Yep. It reminds me of Zig Ziglar, what he said, right? He said this basically the same thing. He says, we'll never know how many more inventions or how many more discoveries would have been made had they went for another evening or another week or studied that lesson one more time.
Yep, yep, absolutely, man. Ah, so good. What's been one of the biggest wins for you?
So the biggest win is just simply being living this life that I always dreamed of living, of having a team and having people to work with and interacting and building relationships. And I don't know. I think the biggest win is just touching people.
Mm, yep.
Yep. And as a business, the biggest win is the first year you turn a profit, right? Like that may like then you know that you're doing what you set out to do. It's working.
Yep.
But that's not necessary. I don't know if that's the most important thing, but from a financial standpoint, it is.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, really, we set out with this goal, and our slogan is "Your success matters," and that we set out with this experiment. It was an experiment to me,
Mhm.
but other people said that's already been tried and true, and that is that we believe if we make others successful first, ours follows in its due time.
Mhm.
And so far, it seems to be that is what's happening.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Why has this? I've picked up on this over the last 30 minutes we've been talking here. Why has it been so important to you to be of service, to be serving others?
I don't really know. I could say that it's because I've been given so much. God has been so generous to me, and I feel very blessed myself, and I just want everyone to experience it. I could say that it's just because I was born that way to interact with people. I get a lot of energy out of people, and there's nothing I like better than to see what I call the shining eyes effect.
Mhm.
That's a Benjamin Zander quote, and I love to see people when you touch them, when you actually reach them, and they're a farmer that normally doesn't show much emotion, and then you all of a sudden do something that they weren't expecting. It was unreasonable hospitality,
Mhm.
and you can tell by their expression, their eyes are shining.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to see people delighted.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Tougher question. How do you walk the fine line between trying to delight customers and go the extra mile, but also not being taken advantage of? Because there are people who don't appreciate what you do.
Yes.
You are well intended, right? Going out there to just go above and beyond, but they don't really care. And I see too many people, especially young salespeople, like overextending themselves to try
Right.
to win people over and win their affection or win
Yep.
their approval. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I've been that guy a lot of my life, right? So how do you walk that fine line? If you don't know, it's fine. Just maybe that's just natural for you, and you got it all figured out. But they're. I'm just curious, like how do you be in the practice of delighting customers, but without them taking that for granted?
Right. That's a really good point, and there's maybe several aspects to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like one is I learned this from a person who helps people who are mentally down. And he made this comment. He says the level of investment that those that need help have will determine how much you can do for them. And he says, don't spend too much time on those that really don't want help. And I think and it seems like there is a really good correlation there. You will be rewarded financially and emotionally by those who are willing to invest. They're wanting their life to do better, and they're willing to invest into that.
Yeah.
And there is a correlation there. And there are always those that probably will take advantage a bit, and we're not too worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we have this core thought here is that correlation is in place. that
Mm-hmm.
if they're willing to come, they're willing to respond, they're willing to invest in their own farm and to do what it takes to make their farm successful, they're generally willing to have us come along and help and participate in us too.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
And there's another aspect to that too, and I don't know how to, as it relates to the time management and all of that, but um, it seems like they all find their proper places as long as we. There are those that just don't want to give us the time of day, and so eventually, we, yeah,
Yep. Yep. I mean, I think you gravitate at some point to those that really do appreciate it.
yeah, exactly,
You know, I mean, like we have a basically a policy, if you will. I mean, it's like if a client is above a certain amount of revenue, right, then that triggers a certain set of things that we do.
yes,
that's
sure,
that's him, right? And
yes,
then there are some people that aren't at that level of revenue that really appreciate that little extra, and I'm still
yes,
willing to do it, right? Not
yep,
because I'm looking for a transaction, not because I'm looking for more, because it feels like the right thing.
sure, 100%. And there's those that, just as an interesting side note, is they started out as small operators and never had any hope of getting to be bigger. But they were very intentional in their farm. They were trying to do their best. They were asking us for help. They were willing to give us whatever we needed to make them their own success happen. And today they have started taking off, growing
Mm-hmm.
and becoming larger operators. Today, there's some pretty nice size operations, and we've been along with them for that ride, and that's been very wonderful to watch.
Yeah, good. All right, this is my last question. It's about seed, actually.
Okay,
Why, not specifically seed traits or anything, why is seed such an emotional decision? I talk to a lot of people like seed is the most emotional decision that a farmer is going to make. And so,
sure.
not a seed salesperson. I do a lot of sales training. I've had some seed sellers go through, and I can talk consultative selling, relationship selling,
Yep.
7 ways till Sunday, and how to do that really well. But I've never truly grasped, probably because I've never been a farmer who had to purchase a lot of seed. But I've never really grasped like why is that such an emotional decision? Can you help me make sense of that?
I can only speculate, but this would be my opinion. We get that a lot when we walk fields and we're walking together, and whether it's a good thing that's happening or it's a bad thing.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a replant situation, or maybe it's an end of the year and there's some hardships that the crop went through. But I agree with that. It is an emotional decision. And I'll go back to is that there's a reason why they're numbers and not names. And that is, it comes down to exactly those reasons is that if it's a name, it can haunt you because there's that emotional tie in
Mm.
to that. And I sometimes wondered if it isn't just because it is actually a living thing, even though it's a plant. You go out there, a farmer watches it. The fertilizer and the chemical side, when you sell that, it doesn't seem like there's that same thing as that living miracle.
That's what I like. I've never been able to get because they're all imperative. I mean, I know you can't make a plant
That's right.
you can't make a plant without a seed, so I guess it starts there, right? But it still
Yeah,
requires all these other things along the way.
absolutely. Yes.
So anyway,
I think it really is. It's a living thing. And it is an emotional thing when you watch it die,
mm-hmm.
versus, other things. You don't see that. You don't see chemical fade away and actually literally see it die.
Yeah, yeah.
I can only speculate.
So these are some things that Mark ponders from time to time.
Yep.
Like why?
Yes. Yes.
you know, so because I mean, at the end of the day, like my clients that entrust us for sales training from time to time, it's like you want to help them, but
Yes.
like there are some really hard things to dislodge.
That's right. And it does. And it's because it is an emotional thing. We do want to be there for them when they're out in their field and they're going through that. That is part of what we're doing, and to walk with them and start looking at things objectively and be able to get, pave that path forward. Farming is part loss. I mean, there's losses we take, and then we have to turn around and reinvest and replant.
Yes, sir. Good stuff. Yeah. Wendell, what last pearls of wisdom would you share with the group before we drop off here today? Any last thoughts, or how do we learn about Topic?
One of the things I'm going to try to focus on is being more approachable, being more effective communicator. And I say effective communication. Part of that relates to just saying things intentionally. I like that. We can use that word again here.
Yeah.
And the other part is increasing my vocabulary of the English language. I think there's a lot of words we don't use in today's society, and
Yeah. I love
I'm
that.
just trying to become more versed in vocabulary to say the right thing
Yep.
with the right meaning.
Yeah. So good. So where did that come from? Like, what's the desire for vocabulary? Which I love, by the way. I think it's great.
I've been involved on a private school as a school board, and we've been involved in some special ed, and it's gotten me into some rooms of listening to people talk and made me realize the value
Mm,
of language
yep.
and using it properly.
Cool. So good. So good, man. All right. Well, man, guys, thank you. Or Wendell, thanks for being on here, guys. Go check out Top Ag. I'm assuming you guys must have a website. Top
Yes,
Ag. You got social
YouTube channel.
YouTube channel. You guys have a little podcast that you produce
You do. It's on YouTube as well.
as well. Perfect. All right, guys, check it out. Wendell, thanks for being on the show, man. It's a really cool
Hey,
conversation.
thank you, Mark. It's been great.